Just to give a little bit of kind of context, Kivu and Antonio went into this kind of collaboration partnership with this film. You wrote and directed the film, and you did the editing and perhaps some of the production as well as your partners in the production company. And so I guess I wanted to start with a bit of a provocation, and then just make sure that we don't forget to talk a little bit about the path that the film has had as well. You know, premiered at Sundance, and then we were just talking about the quite impressive path that it has had across the world, and how that also has given you an opportunity to experience the feedback that people have had of your film. But first of all, just wanted to go back to some of the information that you gave us, or your manifesto. And at some point, you say, Kivu, that you're a bit afraid that you might win the award for most potential film ever made, and that you're not too bothered about that because it gave you an opportunity to explore and to do the things that you wanted to do, to dare to improvise. And so I guess that would be my first question. What did making that decision that you wanted to go ahead and not be restricted by, you know, the funding issues that always surround making a film, the constrictions that might exist around following a linear narrative as opposed to allowing different layers to exist, subtext to actually sometimes take the lead in a story, how that happened? And I'll stop now.
The with I was supposed to make a film with two French production companies and a Belgian co-production company, and we spent about 2 years talking and having lots of espressos and wines in the evening, and it was I really didn't enjoy the whole process to make a film that was going to where everyone was going to work in the best possible conditions and work with a normal budget, like $1.5 million, which is supposed to be normal. So after 2 years of developing this project, I felt that I was not going to make the film I wanted to make, and so I asked them to release me from my contract, and I had done. I had a little bit of saving, and then I talked to Antonio. I told him, "Look, I just dropped the French. I want to make a film, but on our terms." So I asked Antonio a few questions about cameras, and then he suggested a few things, and then I bought the equipment, and I had this idea for this film, and then I developed it even more, and I shot the film myself with a few friends and my usual colleagues in Kigali. And by the time I was finishing shooting the film, when I was starting to look at what it was going to how it was going to look on the screen, I realized that it was going to be very experimental, if you like. And then because I wanted to convince, I was still a bit worried that that people like Joseph Bicknell or Daniel Biro or Jan Meinem, all these people that I wanted to work with in post-production were not going to accept to work with me. So I wrote them. I wrote what you call the manifesto, but it makes it sound like a political party. So I wrote them like what was my vision with this film and why I had chosen to do it that way, and I told them that that I was afraid of winning the award of most pretentious filmmaker. So I don't know how it ended up being published by one website. So but it was supposed to be in internal discussions, and but so that's how
it served that it's a good conversation starter for today. So it had its merits. Antonio, do you want to add a little bit in terms of how?
Well, it was interesting how we sort of, because I worked on Kivu's first film, Grey Matter. And I was actually at the time in Kigali shooting a documentary for Witness, for Al Jazeera, for the 20th anniversary of the Rwandan genocide. And then I met up with Kivu, and we had this beer, didn't we? And you said to me, I can see that I've had this vision for the next film, and I can see this guy walking through a forest, and I went, okay, well, give me a call when, which he did. And when he called me to say, you know, he was coming and he was starting to shoot this film, I said immediately, yeah, okay, well, let's work together and see where it takes us. And what you mentioned about subtext, which is so important, and it's something I really love, maybe because I don't know, I come from a theatre background, and it was all about the importance of subtext that we were talking about. And then, you know, I think I find a lot of subtext in Kivu's construction, in his work. And that was a very interesting thing. I mean, there were two references he gave me when he came with the drives to London, the hard drives, was, you know, watch these two films. And the two films was Sans Soleil by Chris Marker, 1986 film, I think, and Miguel Gomez Tabu, you know, and I watched those as a reference. And of course, when I watched Sans Soleil by Chris Marker, I thought of a friend. Well, he's a colleague and a friend. He became a friend because I worked with him for many years. Daniel Biro is a composer. And I thought, wow, Daniel Biro is so left field, and he loves electronica, and you know, and this is, you know, maybe there's a collaboration here as well. So then they met, and it was great, you know. Yeah.
I guess it's interesting to hear a little bit more about what you say, that you had a vision for the film, and these layers of subtext, these layers that actually you wanted to put. What were your catalysts, I guess, to create these three stories and these characters, which kind of accompany us in the three stories, but don't necessarily play the same roles, and there isn't necessarily a linear connection between the stories, but there are a continuation. The characters are there, the women, the European type, and there's also, I guess, in people who have tried to deconstruct the film, kind of a connection between the relations between the locals and the Westerners, and the connection between Africa and how Africa relates to the rest of the world. So was that all in your mind? Were those the concerns that then went into the storyboard? Or?
Yeah, that and a lot more, actually. So in the last few years, I was thinking about how we read the news, and I think that the comment section on any article about The Guardian or other leading other leading media, really the comment section is a revolution. All of a sudden you can react, and and then Twitter, of course, took that game to another level. And then you had all these heroic figures, like the news correspondent who go, and photojournalists who go and who send faxes. Well, you used to send faxes, and they were educated, and they were like Hemingway wannabe, and they were really they're so well trained, but so romantic at the same time, and the things that they get and others that they don't get, but I've seen such a strong reaction to this figure of the news correspondent, of the foreign news correspondent, especially in the last few years with Twitter. So it all started from here, and then I started thinking about this questioning of how we experience modernity. Like, the cultural contact was so brutal and so sudden, and now I'm considered to be, or many of us are considered to live, to be modern, because that's maybe Western modernity, because modernity is essentially Western nowadays, unfortunately. So, and we're not comfortable in this modernity, and it's grim, and it's bleak, and it's violent, and when we're supposed to, for example, for the female character, when we're supposed to find any spiritual comfort. It just doesn't work. And yeah, so I thought that there was something I could do around those things I was seeing around my friends who are mostly academics and activists, and who are just reacting to everything. Who are seeing neocolonialism everywhere. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're not. Yeah, so I thought there was something to make. I thought I had one or two words to say about these confrontation.
And in the construction of what you wanted to comment about, I guess, wanted to explore with the film, what were the elements that you were considering? I know that, obviously there's a cast of people, but from the first moment that you start watching the film, sound or the absence of sound is very important. It feels very choreographed. So I wanted to hear a little bit more about that, the sound design, the sound score, and other elements that you might have taken, because it does feel like it's a film that you've taken quite great care and attention into the details, into the significance or the signifiers that you might have added with sound or other elements.
So as Antonio said, because Antonio introduced me to Daniel Biro, who composed the soundtrack. From the very beginning, I knew that I was actually going to spend 50% of the budget, of the little budget that was there, on sound, on location sound and sound design and the music, because sound really affects me a lot actually when I'm watching films. So I wanted to try and reproduce the same experience in people who would watch this film. So from the very beginning, I wanted to create three distinct soundscapes for the three characters. And when I showed the first cut to Daniel Biro, because I told him, like, look, this is the one opportunity that you'll get to just do anything you want. Yeah, just surprise me, give me three options for every character, and then we'll see what happens, because we don't owe an explanation to anyone, so just surprise me, go and then he went and gave me three options for every character, and we discussed having a nervous, irrational, aggressive sound for the black male with horns, and we decided on a piano, classic piano, a bit romantic, a bit, that really reflected the mindset of the foreign news correspondent, and then a really modern, complex, like the most complex track was for the woman, but we also manipulated a little bit of the location sound, and when we watched the whole thing, I thought it made sense, as religious people say. It looked right, and
There's something mystical there.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think the fact that the different sounds really are attached to those characters, and the romanticism of the news correspondent, but also the suspicion that's implicit, when these characters from intelligentsia, are having this chat about this woman and about this guy, and their suspicion of someone who holds the monopoly of opinion, as you were talking about. And I think that was very interesting, but I think there's, for me, another layer which I find interesting, which is this unknown African state, between inverted commas, which is a young nation and therefore quite a suspicious nation, and that I think comes across in the film as this spectrum that's there, lingering in the background. So I felt, yes, there was the whole thing made a lot of sense in that respect. There's a construction between all the different elements to bring out that as well, which we haven't talked much about.
Go ahead if you want.
no time.
No time. I have a couple more questions, but I'll stop right now just to see what can come from you. Any questions that you might have or any comments.
So I had a dialogue that was written for the female character with a black character, and it was supposed to it was supposed to show how the communication is broken between them. But at some point, I thought that it didn't work as well as I wanted it to work, and I thought that because she's the most complex character, really. I was accused of being misogynistic in Edinburgh last weekend. And because she didn't have to say a word, but I was like, why does she have to say words to be interesting? And so I refuse to, because if you really look at those two male characters, the black character and the white character, they're a bit caricatures of themselves. The foreign news correspondent is he's smoking a Camel, and then he says that he's smoking a nasty tobacco called Ubugoro. He goes to a private bar and it becomes a bordello. Like everything is just amplified. I mean, all the experiences, because nothing is really happening in his life. I mean, but he's supposed to be dramatic, and the other guy just sees he looks at him as the devil incarnated, and he suspects that he's coming to take. So the black character feels dispossessed, and I mean, it's my theory that I haven't explored properly yet, but I think that the people who felt dispossessed are going to consider that process of being dispossessed completely achieved when their females are taken away. So really, there's a lot of curiosity from the black character until the moment this guy meets the woman. Mm-hmm. And because the woman is supposed to be the mother of the nation, she's supposed to be protected from the influence, from the influence of this person who's going to sabotage my authority and to sabotage my the power I had and in my community. So I wanted the film on character to be the most complex, and that's why I didn't want to put superfluous words in her mouth. And she's the only one who's, for example, going to when she goes to church, for example, and then she sees these figures of Christianity, and she doesn't feel relieved, or she doesn't see any solace there. So yeah, I didn't want to put words that would not have given her the complexity that I wanted her to have.
I think we make a mistake.
Yeah,
You saw him on the rearview mirror?
Yeah, because that was supposed to end up on moviemistakes.com. Really, it was because I only realized because that camera has a very the camera I use had a very it has a monitor that's LCD, so it's very reflective. I couldn't see what I was really filming, and it was the sun was really aggressive, and we only realized that I was
Oh, sorry, I'm a director. That's why. It's
yeah.
So
But the headrest was just because I wanted to film I wanted to film that guy, but because it was going to look very obvious, then I had to explain the reason why there was no headrest there. So it was as simple as that.
Why did you have him put it back on?
Just to explain the reason why it wasn't there before. Yeah. So it was a classic kind of like I've set up something, I have to explain it.
And it symbolizes the Westerners' tendency to kind of have a cushioned surface to lie on.
You found the meaning just now.
I'm very sorry about that, but as I was saying, that woman has disappeared, and working hypothesis number one, based on on a true story. Because so all these were actually based on true Daily Mail type of like a woman has disappeared in town kind of facts, right? And so the first version is it was really the version of the story by the male character who thinks, oh, she must have been taken to this guy's house and he must have done those how white people have sex, and she must, because it happened actually. So because there's a prostitute who disappeared from a club. She went home with two white guys, and then her body was found in a forest a few weeks later. And then the second version is the white guy's version. He thinks that he still thinks that he picked her up and that they made love and not that, and that she was on top, that she was in control. That's what he likes to think. And in the third version, of course, that's all. Yeah, it's in her version of what happened. But the when I say complex, is that so the white guy only thinks that she can only commit suicide because she's been abused by her men. So he even refuses her the possibility of being. She's not complex enough to commit suicide for any other reasons, because we're also guilty of sometimes saying, "Are you depressed? Why, you really have arrived. How dare you be depressed? I mean, you've So why you go to Europe and now you come back home and then you're depressed? So it's just if you see what I mean. So she's the foreign news correspondent thinks that the only reason why she would commit suicide is because she would have had these very basic kind of reason. So that was my intention, to show a woman who's not the classic Africa emerging or Africa rising, or who lives in a setting that looks like the page of a glossy in-flight magazine, and who's living a normal life, but who's just not happy with life, and it was supposed to be dramatic because this is drama, and drama implies conflict, and with no conflict, there's no movie, and so that was my the way my thought process. Yeah. So the black male character is, I mean, I come from Rwanda, and Rwanda is often in the news for being very tough on freedom of the press and being a paranoid nation. And so while I was writing this film, actually, there's a Halloween party that was banned by the Minister of Culture. And you're like, what? Actually, how can you ban a Halloween party? And it was just that kind of all of a sudden it's like, oh, but we're really being invaded. And so I wanted the male character at the beginning. He's genuinely curious about this guy who's here, and there's a part that I didn't translate at the beginning of the film, and that was really addressed to the Rwandans who would happen to watch the film. And so at the beginning he's really genuinely curious, and then at some point he feels like there's got to be something wrong. It's like, why is this person here? Why is this person in my house? And then there's a little bit of harassing with a horn, and then it becomes just frank hostility. And at some point when they're in the toilet, for example, it's a bit of a competition. It's like, who's got a longer one, who's got a bigger dick, I'm sorry. And when it's just like really coming close to him, is it like is he attracted to him? Because it could be that. Why is he so uncomfortable? But why does he feel so that the presence of this man makes him so irrelevant? Or and there's a little poster of the French Cultural Center organizing an event, and but this character is the typical man you could find in Kigali or Nairobi or Dar es Salaam, who's going to complain about why is the French Cultural Center or the Goethe Institute organizing these events? It's like, but why don't you organize them yourself? So it's the kind of like reactionary African male who's not going to go beyond the usual complaining about African cultural expressions being overtaken by Goethe Institute and French Cultural Center. So I wanted him to be. He's still a bit of a caricature, but I wanted him again to be to be that kind of ambiguous male who's so uncomfortable with modernity, whatever that is. For example, when he goes home, we see that he's in bed with someone. It could be, it's a woman, but maybe his wife. Let's say so. And then he goes, and then he's on. He opens his computer. He checks. He opens a website called Cock Monster. It could be a website where they destroy women, just for men to feel good about themselves, or it could be a website, a homosexual website. It could, so it's that kind of African male who's really so uncomfortable with all this modernity. Yeah. So I think I really tried to push him as far as I could, and again, it's only a feature film, and and I've explored this character actually in some other works, and in the future I'll keep reappearing.
And there was a real sense of castration, I think.
Yeah, he's castrated, definitely. Because they really behave like that. I go around Kigali or Nairobi or Joburg, and I have friends who are freelance writers and travel writers, and at some point I say to them, I'm like, how are we friends? It's like, really? Just, I meet other friends, guys that I grew up with and who are supposed to be very modern and who's supposed to be very nuanced in their views of westernization of our communities. And then I'm like, how? But really? It's just, so I keep getting surprised by people I thought I knew, and so there all these how do you say epidemic reactions
of the skin.
As in
At the surface.
There's this resentment and rejection, and it just keeps growing. Yeah, because I guess that the African male maybe feels more and more irrelevant. Is that because when, for example, I say that this woman could be in the forest because maybe she got pregnant and then she was asked to leave the community, but she's still ours. Don't touch her. She's like, yeah. So and then in Kigali, for example, you have all these neighborhoods that have or you have these clubs where you see prostitutes, and then that no one is going to marry them, or no one is going to even talk to them because they're not to be interacted with. But when an aging, chubby, like Italian consultant is in town and goes to talk to them, and all of a sudden everyone is just why? It's like, what's happening? Yeah, so you see this kind of unease and this malaise. I wanted to. Yeah, that's why they're a bit of caricatures, because in real life they seem to act like that to me, at least.
When you were talking you said that in the beginning of the film, and you see there is a text that is read, and you said that it's specifically for Rwandans. That's why you wanted to have there. Have they seen the film?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, I'm getting there.
Yeah.
So in the way to Rwanda, you started in the US, where the film premiered at the Sundance Festival. So quite a big platform, an international platform for a film like yours that started with a story and a decision, a very brave decision of going ahead and making a film without certainty in terms of where the money was coming from, and ended up that you both are very committed, and even at that level with the film. So I wanted to hear a little bit about what the journey has been since that moment, and actually how that moment came to be, because I heard that it was a few hours before the deadline that the film was submitted to Sundance.
2 hours before the
2
deadline.
hours. Well done.
Yeah, work in progress, and with the hope that as you do, you know, you submit to many festivals and you always hope for the best, but then you don't think about it, you know, and I think we were busy at the time just trying to really finish the film, you know, and I remember we saw the first kind of poster design that we really liked, and we looked at it and we said, there's a lot of space there for logos. And
The
then,
credits
you know,
of each
exactly.
festival, yeah.
And then, of course, you know, now it's full of logos, you know, the next version that we need to print. But, you know, and it's been a really incredible journey because, you know, from Sundance, you know, where in the US the business of filmmaking is so incredible and active and proactive, you know. I mean, everyone who was everyone was there, you know, and we had to meet them, and you know, it was a really incredible start for us, going from this sort of, if you like, homemade with, you know, depleted of some resources that you would have in other budgets, you know, with bigger budgets, and to go there and have that experience was incredible. We have had that experience before, I think, with his first movie, with Grey Matter in Tribeca. But I think, you know, Sundance was even bigger, you know, and so anyway, you know, from there on, it went to Sydney International Film Festival, to Durban International Film Festival, Rotterdam, of course, which happened at the same time as Sundance, and it hasn't stopped, and now we've come to that point where we have 2 DCP copies, digital cinema prints of the film, and you know, we're kind of juggling them as best we can to make sure no one, you know, the film can be seen, you know. So it's been really, really incredible experience.
But I guess that in this case, it's a good problem as opposed to probably some
absolutely.
of the other challenges that you
Yeah.
might have faced to get to
Yeah.
that point of the film.
Yeah.
And I hear that this collaboration as a production team is going to continue, and that both of you have projects on the go. So I wanted to hear a little bit more about what you're doing before we close.
The first child of me and my professional husband here was Grey Matter. So we've after that we've worked on a documentary that's somewhere there in our computers, and so and then this film, and then other project, we're making music videos together, and I'm in the process of writing finishing writing my next film, which is supposed to be set in London or New York, hopefully London, and and he's shot he's in production right now.
Yeah, we're another feature film. So, you know, and actually that was interesting, the collaboration you mentioned on music videos, because, you know, Kivu through Sundance got to, you know, assigned to direct or come up with a concept for 2 music videos for Saul Williams, who's...
Oh, I've seen one.
Yeah, and so we worked on that, we collaborated on that, so that was really good. And then, of course, you know, there's another feature film on the making, which is half shot in Portugal, half in the UK, about a nuclear family. You know, our producer is there as well, Maria, at the back. And, you know, so that's been a journey in itself.
Actually, there's a good thing that you just mentioned that maybe could help us close this conversation in a good tone, is that there some of the members of the production of Things of the Aimless Wanderer who are in the audience, if they're still here.
Well,
But it'd be nice to at least acknowledge them.
Before we finish, I wanted to ask him the voiceover, the beautiful voiceover was read by Matt Ray Brown there.
Over there.
Yeah.
The amazing color grading was done by Joseph Bicknell at the back, who now runs his own outfit called Cheat, which is great company. And there's a few other people. Let's have a look. It's our friends there.
And I stayed at Ada's house while we were producing, and Ada's there, so yeah.
Daniel Bira could not make it, but he sends his best regards. And and there's just lots of people. That's Piotr, my friend there at the back, who's also very interested in African cinema, and you know,
Well, let's thank you all for coming, and also Kivu and Antonio Ribeiro for sharing the film and your thoughts with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Isabel.
Thank you.